But at 4 o'clock in the morning, battling a wild boa constrictor in your bathroom in your underwear is not a fun thing to do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Reptile Studio podcast. I'm Greg, and with me, as always, is Brian from Hudson Valley Reptile and Rescue. Hey, Brian.
How are you?
And we have two very special, I don't even want to say guests because that makes it sound interviewy, but they're guests. We have Bob Bledsoe from Green Room Pythons on YouTube, and Amy Benzi from Happy Basins on Instagram, and other things too. Like TikTok is also Happy Basins, right, Amy?
Yes.
Yeah. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for making us guests on your podcast.
Yes,
welcome.
We're glad to be here.
Well, we'll get started with the interview in just a minute, Bob.
No, but so the main reason why I wanted to have you guys on was to talk about your trip. And that was that the first trip that you guys went on?
Together?
Yeah, together.
It was my first trip. Amy's been a million times though.
Yeah.
I mean,
7.
7 is close to a million if you're talking about the trips to the Amazon
practically the
jungle.
same.
Yep. I mean, when compared to 0, like myself, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my perspective, but if you want to talk about that trip, Amy's the person to talk to about it. Because I've been once and I'm going a second time.
Yes, we're going back together again in March.
I mean, the fact that you're going again, Bob, is, that's podcast info too. What made you want to go back, what you enjoyed and stuff. But and that was in Suriname, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we were on the Quarantine River, and it's bordered by Suriname on the east and Guyana on the west. And we flew into Suriname and then traveled to the inner jungle where we were on the border of Suriname and Guyana.
Now, when you say travel to the inner jungle, now what does that mean? Like you go like into like remote, it's like fully remote areas, or is it
here's the cool thing about Suriname. It's the most carbon negative country in the world. And it's like 96% forested. So no matter where you are in Suriname, pretty much, you're in the jungle. And I mean, there is one main city, Paramaribo, but if you step right outside of Paramaribo, you're in the jungle. So basically just getting away from the main cities takes you into the inner jungle.
But we go pretty far.
Yeah. Like in my mind, I'm picturing people going out on a boat like into the middle of the ocean. It's like you're really far from anything.
Yes,
it's basically a bunch of 4-hour trips. It's a 4-hour trip from the main city to the mouth of to where we get on the boat. Then it's a 4-hour boat trip to the village that we're going to that's pretty deep in the jungle. And then it's another 4-hour trip to get to where we camp. So it's a bunch of 4-hour chunks of travel.
All the while staring at the beautiful jungle, though, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seeing many animals, meeting so many great people. It's just amazing. The reason I started, can you guys still hear me okay?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Perfectly.
Great. The reason I started taking these trips is I was actually traveling to Peru looking for the Batisi. And I did find one after 3 trips. I found one going through Peru, Colombia, and Brazil 3 times. 3 times to Peru and twice to Colombia and Brazil. And it was just really heartbreaking because I would spend a whole month over there and I wouldn't find anything. So, but I found that one Batisi the very first time. So that really inspired me to keep going. And then I decided, well, I can go where people find northerns and practice finding them, because it's all about, if you can spot them and, just learning how to find them. So I started going to Suriname to learn, and I just fell in love with it. It's an English speaking country. So even though I made many friends in the other countries, but we always had to communicate via, the Apple iTranslate is what I used. But in Suriname, I was able to even talk to the people in the deepest parts of the jungle because the people speak English. And I would find so many northerns. You guys have seen my pictures holding 5 of them at one time. I mean,
Yeah.
they're everywhere. So I just decided to give up for now on the Batisi search and just keep focusing on the northerns, because the reason I wanted to go was to learn about these animals' habitats so I can give them the best I can at home. So I'm learning that now through the northerns. It's close enough.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then I get to take people with me. And taking Bob we had the best time, didn't we, Bob?
We had a great time. Yeah.
We had so much fun, just with the people, catching the snakes, skinny dipping with the electric eels and the piranha. Is it
Here's the
okay to
thing,
say
though.
that?
We would have had fun if we had gone to Delaware together, but we went to a place that we're both passionate about, and it was amazing. Like there was, oh, look at that guy. Which one is that?
That's Jormungandr. Oh, that's Azzy. That was our very first one.
So where do you come up with the names, Amy, for your snakes?
I just Google, like, Zaltis, for example, is a name of a green snake in the ancient Mesopotamian culture that was known. They had statues of him, and he was just a real good luck charm. People would just love to have a green snake. They would put milk out for him and pray that the snake would come and bless their house. So that's how Zaltis got his name. And then this one, Asmoa, is in the ancient civilization Zaltis's wife. And when I got this, I thought it was a girl, but now I've learned she's a boy. So when I started this year, I had 4 boys and 3 girls. And now I have 6 boys and 1 girl.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, because I learned that they were boys. So that wasn't fun. But that's how I just get the names, except my husband named 2 of them, Bella and Cassius Clay.
Those are great names.
They are great names.
And Cash for short. Cash is a cool name, as a short.
Yeah,
and
but
then
I was just gonna say, I always try and, for the most part, not religiously, but I try to always, come up with a name for an animal from the region that that species is from. If you guys hear my cat running around and making weird noises, I should say, if you hear weird noises and scratching noises and things, it's my cat. He's got the zoomies right now. But
well, I was going to say, since we were talking about names, one of the really fun things about Bob is he says that we're giving the snakes something they would never have otherwise, and we get to give all of the wild snakes a name before we release them back into the wild.
Yeah.
It's a really, really fortunate thing that these animals get to be caught by these humans, because otherwise they would never have names. So
right.
Yep. Yep, definitely. And who do you have out, Bob?
This one has a name. This is Echo. She's my little super dwarf. She is looking for food right now, and
She likes to bite.
She does like to bite. It's only when she's looking for food. So I do a thing that when she is looking for food, especially in the evening, I'll sometimes handle her just to make sure that she understands that I'm not food, and I'm taking a risk, but it's not that big of a deal,
Yeah,
At
I
her
know.
size, it's a pretty low risk, right?
Yeah. When she's 2-3 times this size,
Right.
it'll be a little different.
How big does she get being a dwarf?
She's a very high percentage super dwarf, and she'll be like 8 feet, something like that. She may, when she's a 16-year-old snake, she might be a little bigger than that, but she'll be pretty tiny and skinny.
Now this question's for both of you guys, but Amy first, I was wondering if you had any plans to go anywhere else other than like South America. Because you've been there so many times.
No. My
Emerald tree boas are not anywhere else.
Well,
Yeah.
right.
My guy that I've been going with, I've done 3 trips with Mark now. I've been to Suriname 4 times and 3 of them with Mark. And he said when I went with Bob that time, he saw something that made him so happy that we never experienced before. And it was the fact that I was excited about other animals other than just the tree boa.
Right.
Because the tapir came right up to my hand, and the jaguar was amazing. And I think just after going so many more times, I was able to appreciate the other animals. But I said something on a podcast once that one of those things I wished I hadn't said afterward. And it was that.
Yeah, repeat it on this podcast then.
Yeah, right. Well, I learned. But what I had said was that all the other animals I see, I'd get no thrill more than just going to the zoo. But when I see these emeralds out there, something happens to me. Just these.
Yeah, you're passionate.
It makes sense though. Everybody likes what they like, and they're allowed to.
I'm gonna let Azzy go. Can you bring me Yormi?
We worked with a bunch of snakes though. Like we had a bunch of different species on that trip, and Amy did well with them. Amy appreciated them all and did well with them. But the emeralds are definitely her jam.
Yeah, I mean, look at them. I mean, it's hard to beat.
And they're super intelligent. Something that Bob and I definitely noticed with the other animals that you deal with out there is that the rainbow boa really does calm like the emeralds do. The rainbow boa and the emeralds, you can pretty much hold any wild one with no problems. But I've never bothered messing with the what was that big snake we had, the BCC or BCI or something?
It was a red tail boa constrictor.
So that snake, we had 3 of those, and they never calmed down. They were constantly on defense, constantly scared. They never seemed to truly realize that they weren't under threat. Where the emerald,
especially the one we had especially one that was really nervous. And I do feel like we got lucky with we had one rainbow boa that we got very lucky with, because I think the rainbow boas are I mean, they're kind of bitey in captivity even, but we had one that basically just from the get-go acted like a tame snake. So that was cool.
That's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And I know, and I'm sure that, I mean, like a lot of animals that their ability to like respond to like our feelings when we're, our
whatever energy you're putting out,
Yeah.
If you're grabbing the snake by the back of the neck because you're afraid to get bit, you're putting out predator energy, but if you're handling them gently and letting them kind of go and sort of guiding them, that's not predator energy. And they understand that eventually, hopefully,
Right. I feel like they do. Oh, and there's one other snake. You always have to hold them last if you're going to make videos. You make your videos with all your snakes, and then at the very end, you take your videos with the cooks, the what are they called?
Amazon tree boas. Because Amy doesn't like to be bloody when she takes her videos, and she knows she's going to be bloody if she handles the Amazon tree boas. Because this thing about them understanding you, it does depend on the species, and then of course it also depends on the individual snake. What their individual personality is. But species to species, I think most people that have ever worked with Amazon tree boas in captive or in the wild know that they are little anguses. But they also can't cause much. So if you're working with them and like trying to get video, you just let them bite you, and you end up with bloody arms, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
right.
Tiny little heads.
Yeah. It doesn't. You can't feel it at all, but it looks really bad.
Yeah.
The thing with Amazon tree boas too is they're, when you look at them, when you look at them like straight on, look straight at the front of their nose, they look like I'm drawing a blank. It's like all their features are very close to the center.
And a lot of times they have great big eyes. They look like aliens a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, they look like aliens.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one that had his eyes were twice as big as all the others.
I was just going to say that. They were probably double a normal
And if
eye.
7 is 1 million, we had like 5 million Amazon tree boas.
That's right.
Didn't we, Bob?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, because they're just everywhere. Like they're all over the place.
I recently, it's a work in progress still, but in my reptile room, I built a jungle gym, and for the most part, based off the first podcast we did with Amy, and just and just seeing all the snakes just everywhere, basically, just up in the ceiling and all over the place. And
that ceiling situation she's got is amazing.
It's out of this world. And I was especially taken back by all of the movements at night that you captured with all of those time lapses. Am I right? I'm pretty sure they were time lapses, right? Yes. I Amy, listen, I talk about you on all of our podcasts because I'm like, you need to see this. You have no idea. This person had like 7 emeralds out at various different times, passing them between her and a friend. And, after doing this for as long as I have, you don't do that with emeralds. That's a no-no.
It's something that, I get comments. I got one on a Instagram post that I did where I was in the jungle with an emerald, and I've gotten this comment a lot, but I got it just yesterday. Somebody saying that I can't believe that's a wild emerald. That's got to be a snake that you worked with, because emeralds don't act like that. And it's just this reputation that they have that's really, I don't know that it's not true. It's just that it depends on how you treat them. And I think that as far as wild caught animals, I think the export process, when these animals go through that export process, they're kind of pissed off. And I get it,
Yeah, they're miserable by the time they get to the person who's going to own them forever. I mean, it's absolutely
right. And then for a lot of people that have emeralds, they got their emerald. I'm not talking about breeders or people who have worked with them for years. I'm talking about the people who have 1 or 2. They got that emerald and they're like, all right, this snake has the biggest teeth of any non-venomous snake in the world. I am not going to get bit by it. So they act like they're always going to get bit around the snake, and it makes the snake nervous. So. I think it's how we come at the snake.
Yeah,
well,
which is what
Go ahead.
I'm just concurring with Bob's side, which is what we were talking about kind of like reading your energy. So
Yes. And I have a situation. I did a podcast with somebody, and I put it on Facebook. And my mother-in-law, who's a Southern lady that doesn't cuss ever or anything, and then my neighbor's granddaughter and an ex-client's granddaughter were all watching the podcast because I put it on Facebook, and I was really excited. And I had just my Isis out, who can't come out today because hopefully her and Cash have been having lots of sex. I hope some great things come out of all that. But I had Isis out, and when that podcast started, it was all cussing and bongs, and I just like got all sweaty and was trying to get on my computer to put a warning on the thing that I put on Facebook, and then later after I deleted it. And Isis has never acted like that before or after, but I couldn't take any other snakes out. She was striking. She was never anything like that, but she felt all that energy. So even all of them can feel it.
Yep. Yep.
But definitely in the wild, they are not vicious like that. They're actually extremely intelligent and inquisitive and super easy to read their body language. And
They are.
like Bob said,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like Bob said, they really go through a lot with dehydration and stress and fear.
Yeah. And it is like any other wild snake. When you're handling them, you watch them close and you react to what they're doing, and they definitely can turn around and bite you. And especially when you're working with them, maybe in the first 20, 30 minutes, they're going to be pretty defensive, because even though you're not acting like a predator, they're not used to a big hairless monkey handling them. It's super scary.
You're not talking about yourself, are you?
I'm not talking about myself. I was talking about you, Amy.
Because you are not hairless.
So, but it's super scary for them,
Oh yeah. Any interaction with any snake, I always tell people that you're a predator to them. They don't know. They don't understand what you are. If you act like something that's trying to eat them, they're going to defend themselves any way they can.
Right.
And that's usually by trying to bite.
Right. Except for Echo right now, she's a predator to me because she thinks I'm going to feed her right now.
Is Bob, is your room that you're in now as escape proofed as Amy's room is?
Yeah, I have videos on my channel about setting up a room for safe free roaming. My room doesn't look like a jungle, obviously, but I have, like, this is a ladder. What you can see here, I've got stuff that hangs for any semi-arboreal snakes that I have can climb up on this ladder that's got a bunch of stuff, and everything in the room has different stations. So I have different species, and I don't mix them.
Okay.
So my ball pythons, my big girl female ball pythons, and some of my males can come out at different times. I'm not bringing males and females out at the same time, but they can come out. They usually stay low. They usually go under the couch or behind the mirror and hang out, whatever. I've got a big stand-up mirror. And then the super dwarves have kind of this area and a few other spots. And then I have one boa, and he has his own spot. But yeah, I let them free roam as much as they want to. A lot of my snakes don't want to at all. They'd rather stay in their hide. But gotcha. I have a number of snakes that really enjoy free roaming.
And I was bringing that up because I think that plays, like, providing that enrichment, I think plays a role in how some of the snakes react to us.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know if you guys will be able to. I'm just see. Oh, nope.
Put it in front of you.
No, it's the background blocks.
Oh, when you turn it,
wait,
put it
in front of you. There you go.
Yep. Oh,
there it is.
That's my horn
right
frog.
In front of you.
So this.
Yes.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. So this is what Amy inspired me to put up that jungle gym, and it's a work in progress, but that's my carpet python.
That's exactly what we started with, rope.
Yeah, and
that's fantastic.
The great thing is she actually puts herself away, which is what I was hoping.
Yes, they do know where home is.
Yes, they
my
do.
Super dwarves do as well.
Yeah, I love that.
And my boa does sometimes, but the super dwarves, they'll come out and hang out all day, and as soon as they're ready to go back, their cage is open and they know exactly where to go.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And I like the way, and I love, like, people like you guys having a platform to show people like that,
yes, to try to help normalize it.
Yeah, and then that, like, having a snake, like, as a pet doesn't mean keeping it contained.
Right. And even as a hobbyist breeder, like Amy's breeding right now, I have a bunch of ball pythons that I breed. I'm raising my retics to breed them, but they all get if they want it, they get out of the enclosure time, and because I have less than 30 snakes. I have like 27 snakes, so I can do that. I've got the time. I can bring them out, whatever. If I had 100 or 200, there's no way I could do that. But
is that overall, Bob? Across all species, you have under 30?
Yeah.
Nice.
I only have 2 super dwarf retics. I've got 1 black-headed python. I've got
Lucky.
a boa. What's that?
I said lucky.
She's great. I love the black-headed python. And then I have the rest are ball pythons. But really, the black-headed python, she needs to be out of the enclosure. She would be, if she was in the wild, she'd be roaming about a mile a day looking for food. So I let her come out and hunt, but I have to make sure all my other snakes are put away when she gets her roaming time.
Does she eat snakes? Did you say that one eats snakes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, black-headed pythons are reptile eaters. So
they'll eat.
She never has, but I don't want her to meet any of my other snakes.
Right.
It's a safe choice.
Yeah.
Yes. I would love to let my iguana live down in this room with these snakes.
Oh yeah,
that's not a safe choice.
A poor iguana would end up in one of their bellies.
More than likely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so and it's also the weird thing about this topic about allowing time for like exploration and free roaming. What I've been thinking about was keepers who don't have that capacity to do that, but still want to have a pet snake or 2 pet snakes.
There's so many things they can do within the enclosure, and even if they even people that keep snakes in tubs, there's so much you can do for enrichment in anything. I always tell people to not feel bad when you see somebody like Amy with that room, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I could never provide that for my snake. Well, you don't have to, but you can do a little bit better than with what you have. You can do a little bit better, and if we always are striving to do a little bit better, then the snakes are going to do great.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like Amy just said, she was pointing out when Greg was showing his video that they started with ropes as well. So just because you see that somebody is further along in the process doesn't mean you shouldn't start because you're not there. It should show you that there's a different thing. You can do something different than what's been the social norm for reptile keeping over 25 years without breaking the bank or making yourself crazy,
And also, these are snakes. They don't care if they have wonderful looking plants and it looks beautiful. When I have hatchling ball pythons, I throw toilet paper rolls in there for them. And they love to curl up in a toilet paper roll. Yep. They'll use it instead of their hide sometimes. That's a great thing for them. And it's just trash. I'm literally throwing my trash into the snake cages so that they can
one man's trash is another snake's treasure. You heard it first here by Bob.
Yeah,
you got it. Right. Just make sure it's safe, everyone who does, all 3 of you that watch this. Make sure whatever you're putting in there is safe.
I tell you what, I have a huge stash of boxes and toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls. Anytime I get a box that's about like this, not a big Amazon box, but anything that I can put in a cage at some point, I just store up and keep,
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense.
Yeah, and I
even
see
just random objects. I'm a proponent of doing simple things like pieces of driftwood or cork bark that might have broken off something larger and with littler snakes or what have you. Anything to give them a different smell or a different interaction.
Yes.
Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just it popped in and I needed to say it.
I was just going to talk about garbage, so it's all good.
Well, now I'm really curious. What did you have to say? No.
You wanted to talk about the band Garbage.
Oh.
Yeah.
That works.
I tell you what, though, I did about a year and a half ago or so, SwitchBot, which makes like thermometer, hygrometers, and stuff like that, these kind of things, they sponsored one of my videos, and they said, we're going to send you a bunch of product. And they sent me way more product than I needed. They sent me a huge box of a ton of smaller boxes with just a bunch of stuff. So what I did in that video is I made a castle, and you saw my process throughout the video. I would cut to me building this castle out of boxes, and I cut holes in it so that the snakes could go into the castle and access all the other boxes in there. And it was a lot of work. I don't know if I would have done it if it wasn't for a video, but it lasted about 3 months before didn't it, and I went right away.
Right. Yeah. That's an amazing thing though. And it was all free. You know, I don't want to say it was free because you might have had to purchase the products otherwise, but it was something you were just going to recycle or throw away or what have you.
Exactly.
And it gave 3 months of enrichment to however many snakes you potentially let use it. You know, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, for sure. Hang on.
Snakes are people too.
That's right.
They sure are. Snakes. Oh, she's in the log. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't see Echo, and I had to see where she was. She curls up. This is a great big log, and she curls up in it. And so what I'll do before I plan on feeding her tonight, so I won't even bother getting her out of the log. I'll just pick that thing up and put it in her cage with her in it. Makes it really easy.
And I assume she's eating frozen.
Yeah.
So
all my snakes eat.
You'll just place it in there and leave it, and she'll come out of the log and do her thing. And
no, I target train her. She's
okay.
I have some snakes that are target trained, and especially the retics because they're so food motivated. I use a target as a food cue. So when they see this blue thing, they know that food is available.
Gotcha.
And the idea is that if they don't see the blue thing, they should know that food is not available, because the only time they get fed when that blue thing happens. It doesn't always work that way with that particular snake, though.
How long have you been doing that?
Couple years. I've target trained a bunch of ball pythons, but I don't use it on them anymore. I just did it as an experiment to see if they were smart enough, and they definitely are. They can pick up on it right away. But I use it for my super dwarves, my black-headed python, and my my boa.
It's a good practice to get in.
Yeah,
Greg,
and it's good brain enrichment for them.
Yeah. What's that?
Greg, was that you that mentioned about my snakes not striking so fast? No, it was a comment recently. I posted a video of my snakes feeding, and somebody mentioned that they don't strike as fast as what they're used to emeralds striking. And I made another video when I fed them just like 10 days ago, and I noticed, yes, they do. They make sure it's a rat before they strike at it. So my snakes always sniff the rat first and then come back at it, because they're so used to hands going into their cage. They don't think every time their door is open that it's food. And I didn't ever notice it, but somebody noticed it on Instagram, and it made me think about it. And yes, that has to be the reason why.
I'm sure it is. I think a lot of snakes get like that, but I think it's also individual for the snake. I have one super dwarf retic that's as food motivated as Echo, but she always sniffs first. And if she can be in food mode, and I can put my hand in front of her face, and she'll never bite me. She never has. Echo will bite at anything without and ask questions later. So,
well, didn't Echo bit? What's your girl's name?
Lucy.
It bit Lucy when we were in the jungle.
That's right.
And her mom was there, and her mom isn't that excited about the snakes. And
yeah,
the
she's
first
terrified
time
of
they
snakes.
go over.
Yeah, Lucy is 15 years old, and she's been taking care of my snakes if I'm out of town more than 5 days at a time, which I often am. She comes in and changes water and such. She knows the snakes very well, but she's not very careful with them. And her mom is very sweet for driving her over, because her mom is absolutely terrified of snakes.
And how old is Lucy?
Lucy's 15. But she's been bit a couple times by Echo. She was the first one to be bit by the black-headed python. So
And when we went to the jungle, Bob had just had a brand new clutch of babies. So his 15-year-old snake sitter had to take care of all
I had to
those
set them up.
babies.
Yeah, they were hatching the day before I left. They were hatching, so I was like, Lucy, you got to set up these snakes. Like which is pretty cool. There, she also had to feed all my snakes, which I usually don't have her do. She did really well. It was great, and she'll do it again when we're back in the jungle. Hang on, I'll be right back.
March 1st, we're going to the Everglades to go python hunting, which we did on our last trip as well. We didn't find any pythons, but we found a lot of really cool stuff. And we're going to do that again. And we have a really cool crew going with us to the Everglades. We have, you guys know Ron Rundo?
No, I'm not familiar.
Ron Rundo does the snakescapes. Like, for example, it's kind of hard to see. Can you show him that tree? He does all kinds of sculptures for snake enclosures. Everybody's got his stuff. Ed Marino,
okay.
Steve Volk, everybody's got Ron Rundo stuff. So he went with us last time in the Everglades, and he's going to go again. And then we have an amazing girl named Amy Sieve. Do you think I'm saying her name right, Bob?
Yes, I do.
And she's a well-known python hunter in the Everglades, and she's going with us. And then Bob, and then Dave Kaufman is going with us all the way on our whole jungle trip.
Oh, nice.
And then Bob's producer, Amy, is also going with us. So Amy and Amy are going to the jungle. And then we have the other Amy in the Everglades. So we have 3 Amy's.
we got 3 Amy's. Yeah.
I stopped hearing what you were saying when the camera was zoomed in on the snake.
Yeah, Larry says he absolutely does not want to be on this side of the camera, but he's happy to be over there. Make it interesting.
It's definitely adding an element to the podcast that we haven't had. So
okay, so last time we were in the Everglades, we had just started our trip. It was dusk, and we're on this truck. There's a bunch of us standing in the back of the truck, and we're going down this highway, and Amy goes, "Ooh, snake," because she saw movement in the water. So we stopped and jumped out and went over to the edge and saw that the movement, I saw what the movement was that she was looking at. It wasn't a snake. It was a baby alligator, like a brand new baby alligator that had just hatched. And then we start looking around, and there's one more, and there's another one, and then there's 5, and they're all over the place.
Awesome.
20 gazillion.
And then we see the mom. Like, we saw there were a ton of baby alligators that had just hatched, but the last gator that we saw was the mom that was right there. Because, my instinct is, I think I might be able to reach one of these, which would have been the dumbest thing in the world.
Crocodilians
but that was a really cool thing to see.
Crocodilians are excellent mothers. That would have been a bad day.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting.
But it was a cool thing to see, though. That's a pretty rare.
Oh, heck yeah. That's
a pretty rare sighting of brand new.
Yes. And that was actually my second time.
Yeah, it was good.
Because we found one here in Arkansas, Allison and I did. Found a clutch of babies like that.
Oh my gosh. That's cool.
Amazing.
When I went back later and I was watching the videos that we took when we found those baby alligators, my stomach was just completely dropping out, because watching the videos of us going in that swamp, trying to get pictures of all those babies and knowing that mother it was not the best thing to do. But she does have her degree in field wildlife biology, and her study was the alligator here in Arkansas. So I felt safe that
that doesn't mean she's safe around them. That just means she knows about them.
She'd spent a lot of time with them, but watching back on the video was still a little scary, thinking about, wow, we did that.
Yeah.
Awesome experiences, though, nonetheless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So when we go in the jungle, when we're in Suriname, one of the cool things, when I first started going to the jungle, we would do terrestrial hunting. So we would go out all night, tromping through the forest with machetes, cutting down things so we can just make paths to get through. It's, hot and scary, and you have to go cut the trails in the day and then go back at night. Well, when I started going to Suriname, Igor told me, no, it's not necessary to tromp through the woods. You take the boat and you find the snakes on the river because they're anywhere you go in the jungle, you can find these snakes or the northerns, in Suriname, they're everywhere. But when the snakes they travel long distances all the time, like every night, and then they go back to their same place. But once they get out to the riverside, they don't have anywhere to go, so they just linger out there. So there you can actually just sit in the boat with flashlights and get your spaghetti fork when you see one and stick it up there and twirl it around, and you have yourself an emerald.
That's
The
pretty
flashlight
neat.
thing sounds easier than it is, though. In my second night, I realized that I'm never going to find a snake. Like, I'll never, as much as I shine flashlights into the trees, Mark, our guide, is always going to find them. He'll find everyone that's there, and he'll always be the guy to find them. So I started to relax and keep my flashlight off, or maybe like look for mammals along the banks or whatever, which I also didn't find any. But man, those snakes are tough to see. And Mark will he'll just flash around super fast. He's whip, there's one, whip, there's one, and he's seeing them from far away, and they're like deep in the tree, and he'll see just a little eye shine.
It's crazy. The eye shine. It's always the eye shine.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I learned about eye shine. To be able to see the eye shine, you've got to flash your flashlight at your eye level, so that's a layer on their eye that allows them to see at night, like a cat. I didn't know this, but spiders have that layer on their eyes as well, and so you can shine into like these bushes that are right at the riverbank. Some of the bushes are teeming with spiders, and you can shine in there, and you can't see the spider because we're on the water and the bush is kind of far away. But those eyes will shine back at you, and they're different colors. They're green and red and white, and it looks like a Christmas tree, but it's spiders.
To some people, that sounds like nightmares, but that's awesome to me.
To me, it sounds like nightmares. I am not a fan of spiders. I'm a bit of arachnophobe.
That's an awesome thing, though.
Yeah. I was okay with it, though. I mean, I was far away from the bush, so it didn't,
Right, yeah. You weren't walking through the jungle where that bush is, right?
Yeah, but it does take time to learn, like, obviously a spider's eye is way smaller than a snake's eye, but you're just seeing the shine, and you can't really tell what size that is when it's shining back at you. So it takes a while to realize what's just a spider and what might be a snake,
Right, especially from the boat.
Yes.
Were you guys scanning both sides of the river, or were you just scanning one and then going back up and doing the other?
Back and forth, because the river's massive.
Right.
It's super wide, so you can't shine.
You can't
you
spot
can't even be in the middle of the river. What's that?
It depends on the terrain. Sometimes we do one side, and then when that terrain changes to an undesirable for what we're doing, we'll go to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome.
It's a massive river, though. Like, if you were just on it and didn't know any better, you would go, oh, this is the Amazon River for sure, because it's freaking huge.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, we're going back in March.
I was just about to say when you're going back. Okay.
And you're planning to do the same kind of things, right? You're going to stop off in the Everglades again and hunt pythons, and then you're going to head down. So are you leaving right from Florida and heading down to Suriname?
The reason we do the Everglades is because you have to be to the Miami airport 3 hours prior to your Suriname flight. And usually it's difficult to get a flight that comes in early enough from wherever you are. So it's easier to just go the night before, get a big verbo and share it, and then everybody flies out the next day. And that's where the Everglades trip was like, oh, we're going to be right there. We may as well do this.
Right. Makes sense.
So that's how that started.
We're going, it's essentially the same trip, except we're going in the wet season this time. It was the dry season last time. So for me, Amy's always been in the wet season, right? Amy, that last trip was the first time you'd been in the dry. So I haven't yet. So for me, it's going to be a completely different trip because the water's level is going to be different. The terrain is going to be different. There will be different animals. There should be more snakes, even though we saw a ton of snakes. There should be more during the wet season. So it'll be very different, even though we're going to the same place. And also, we've got Dave Kaufman with us this time.
So it's going to be different anyway.
Nuts.
Yeah.
We didn't have him last time. So that's a lot of energy to bring out to the jungle with us.
Yeah.
And also, I've done all the things that we're going to do on this March trip, I've done individually. But on this trip, we're combining all the cool stuff I've ever done into one trip.
Okay. So how long is it going to be?
It's still going to be the same amount of time, 2 weeks. But we spend 1 week actually deep in the bush, and the other week is spent traveling. So we'll be doing actually 4 nights of terrestrial hunting on top of our 6 nights boat hunting.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we're taking Dave Kaufman has a channel that's Dave Eats the World. So he also shows all the food he eats. So we've actually hired the 2 most amazing cooks in the little village that we leave out of. So those 2 ladies are coming with us on our trip, and they're going to be our cooks. When usually we just have one of the hunters as a cook.
Huh,
because they're good cooks. You know, the hunters are good cooks. But...
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
But these ladies do, they hunt and clean the animals and cook them and prepare them with side dishes and everything. So, and we do eat off the land when we're there. So, Bob's eating rats, lizards.
It's not rats.
Piranha.
She says rats. It's not true.
They are rats.
Paca.
Oh, please, you're ruining it for me.
Technically is a rodent.
They're rats.
Okay, but it looks more like a deer. They're about this big. They're little it looks like a hoofed animal, but it's not. It's closely related to a capybara, which is a rodent. Amy likes to call them rats though, because she likes to say that we're eating rats out there.
We are.
So if it was a capybara, would you still call it a rat?
Is it a capybara? Is it a rodent?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. The largest in the world.
Yes. I would say I eat the biggest rats in the world when I'm in the jungle.
I'd say paca are probably the second largest. I don't know of anything in between a paca and a capybara, but we eat a lot of that. It tastes like pork. It's very good.
Delicious.
We ate iguana. We ate piranha.
And piranha and paca are always in season all year round. You can eat fish all year. Some animals you can eat all year. And then we have eaten iguana when they're in season. So we did have iguana on our last trip. I didn't post that video on any of my social media.
Now, I have to ask, and don't say chicken, but what does the iguana taste like?
I have no idea, because the sauce that our cook made was so freaking delicious. You couldn't taste the meat. It was chewy. Like I've eaten rattlesnake years ago, and I've eaten alligator. It's chewy. Reptile is chewy, so it's that same consistency, but I don't know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
It was a curry sauce.
So good. I went back for seconds.
I did. Yep, we both did. And I begged Bob, but he just didn't want to. But I also ate just one of the delicacies of Suriname, which is the iguana egg. But, I have a pet iguana upstairs. I love her. I feed her. She's so precious. She looks at me. She loves me. And it was hard to wrap my brain around eating the iguana, but I wanted to.
Yep.
So that's what they eat.
You wanted to see what your pet would taste like. I get it. I understand.
You never know.
I mean, that's the way of the world in other countries, though. Eating what's available.
The redfoot tortoise is a delicacy. Yep. People raise them and eat them.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. I was talking to the exporters about that. Like, how many redfoot tortoises are you exporting? They're not. When those are hunted, when those are taken, they sell them to the restaurants, I guess, or
Yep.
they're maybe selling them to private people. To those don't get exported as pets. Those get eaten.
Nope.
It's pretty crazy.
Now, are you guys?
I mean, a little further south in South America, the Argentine tegu also is a delicacy and
Oh, really?
generally eaten upon capture. Yep.
Wow.
It's crazy to think about.
Mhm.
But again, necessity.
And
Yes.
really, there's a lot of meat on a tegu. So those are chunky lizards, you know.
Yep. And
I mean,
a
it's
big
like
male, a big male iguana is pretty big too.
I was just going to say that it's the same as an iguana. There's a lot of meat on it, you know.
Yep.
Well, I did get to eat the top of the tail, the big fatty part, and it tasted like a meatball.
Okay.
Now, like a frozen meatball from a bag, or like an Italian restaurant, like authentic
It tasted
meatball?
like a delicious lamb meat curry meatball.
Oh,
It was very tender. It practically melted in my mouth. But the other pieces had a lot of bone, and so you just have to kind of suck it to get anything off.
yeah.
But the egg was really good.
Are
So
either
gross.
are either of you recording anything on the Everglades part of this upcoming trip?
Yes,
I
Bob
recorded
posts
it.
everything.
Yeah, I recorded a full video of our Everglades trip last time, but I didn't post it just because we didn't get much, so I haven't done anything with the footage. But
Yeah.
I film everything. I mean, I do it with the intent to make videos. So I've put 3 videos out already on our Suriname trip, and I'll have 1 or 2 more on the next trip. Plus, I'll do another Everglades video.
Now,
pretty
Bob,
Yep.
I was gonna say, Bob, we didn't talk yet about what we did at Kurt's house. Can you tell him about that? Because I've never done this before, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever done, and I'll never go back without doing this.
Yeah, this was cool. So Kurt is a middleman, and he happens to be the guy that he's in the village of Apura. He's the brother of Mark, who's our guide, our snake finder. And Kurt is a middleman. So when anybody finds a snake, whether it's a hunter, trapper, or just a construction worker or a miner, if they have a snake, they bring it to Kurt and he buys it from them. And then occasionally the exporters come to Kurt and buy all the snakes. So we stay at Kurt's guest house when we're there. And we asked him if he had any snakes. And he had just sold all of his snakes the week before to an exporter, but he had 7 that had just come in that week. And he said, yeah, we got some snakes. So he told us basically what he had, but he left something out because he wanted it to be a surprise for Amy. We were just coming over to his place, which is right next door, basically, to play with snakes. But when we got there, Amy saw that he had an emerald. And she goes, oh my God, Kurt, can I please buy that emerald? Because I want to release it back in the wild. Because we talked about this, about potentially doing it. And he goes, yeah, you can buy that emerald. And so I said, so she bought the emerald. And then I said, well, what about the rest of these? There was like I mean, we ended up with, without making the story long, we ended up with 3 boa constrictors, a couple of
Amazon tree boa,
a couple of Amazon tree boas, a rainbow boa, an anaconda, a bunch of, so we had 7 snakes total. So I bought the rest of them.
5 different species.
5 different species. So Amy, what did you pay for your emerald? $35?
Yep.
And I paid for the rest of them a total of $50.
Holy
so
crap.
We did not spend a lot of money, but so what we did is we just took those back to the house with us and played with them, which was fun. Made some videos
in the shower.
And yeah,
Bob and me and 7 snakes in the shower together.
So I got a story to tell you I got a funny story to tell you about that, but basically the idea was that we take them with us when we go deep into the jungle and re-release them. So I have that video. That was the first video that I came out with on my channel, is us releasing these snakes that we had bought. And just to be clear for your listeners or anybody else that's thinking about this, a lot of people commented, and I didn't address it in my video. I should have. They commented that we're just supporting the practice by buying these snakes. They're just going to take that money and keep doing what they're doing, which is the argument that you give when somebody buys a snake from Petco. You go, oh, you're just giving them money to buy more snakes. You shouldn't buy from Petco, which I agree with. You shouldn't, because that's the market. So once the snake is on the market, from Petco's perspective, there's a question as to whether that snake will be sold or not. But in the export process, there's no question as to whether that snake will be sold. It's the hunter or trapper finds the animal, he brings it to the middleman. The middleman will always pay him for his snake. Always. He's just paying him for the work that he does. Then the exporter comes to the middleman, pays the exporter for the work that he does, and takes all the snakes. So there's never a question as to whether these are going to sell. And we were probably the first non-exporter to buy the snakes from the middleman. So we just interrupted the process and brought those snakes back into the jungle.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot has to be said for that fact. It's not like you're keeping PetSmart from making their bottom line. You're putting an animal back in the wild. Mm-hmm. Whether you're paying the exporter or not, you're not giving money to a corporation that's going to not care about the animal's life again.
Right.
You're buying the animal to give it life, to set it free.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, as a rescue, I totally get it. It's completely understandable.
Yeah, but it's not, when if you're a keyboard warrior and you're watching some video and you want to find something, like you're looking for something wrong with it. Hey, you're just, you're just, supporting their nefarious business. And by the way, it's not nefarious. It's totally legal to do that there,
Yep. It's a way of life for some people.
We intercepted 2 more emeralds in an Amazon tree boa.
Yeah, from a hunter. We met a hunter who's friends with Mark. Just
way out in the jungle, not in the village. Way out there, he was hunting. We saw him on an island.
Mm-hmm. And so he sold us his snakes, and we set those free.
I commend you guys for doing that. That's awesome.
It was cool. It was really fun to do. But let me tell you this story really quick. We're in the guest house in Apora. We had just bought the 7 snakes, and we had them all in bags. Amy has this genius idea of using mosquito netting as bags for these snakes, which is great. It's actually the mosquito netting that you would put over your head. It's super cheap.
Okay.
It's got a drawstring, and she puts leaves and branches in, and it works really well for Amazon tree boas and emeralds, especially smaller emeralds. It does not work well for anacondas and boa constrictors, large boa constrictors. So we've got these snakes in these little flimsy mosquito netting bags, and we have them all in the shower room. The bathroom is split up into 2 rooms. There's a bathroom with a toilet and a sink, little tiny, and then right next to it is a completely tiled shower room. So you walk in there, it's floor to ceiling tiled, and it's got a shower spigot and a sink right there in the tile also. And we went, great, we're going to put these snakes in the shower room. We'll put the water snakes like the anaconda and the rainbow boa close to the water. We'll turn the water on, give them some, get the humidity going, and then we'll turn it off and we'll just leave them for the night. So I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I go into the bathroom, the room with the toilet and the sink, and I open the door. I haven't even flipped on the light yet, and I see in the window. The windows are the glass shutters. Those windows that are built with glass shutters that they open this way.
Yep.
So it's like pieces of glass that are just so the window's open, and the boa constrictor that gave us the most trouble, that was like super bitey and just aggro, is up there. I thought it was the anaconda at first. I was like, oh my God, how did the anaconda get out? So I run and I get my snake hook, and it's at head level. So I got to battle this snake head level. And I flip on the light and I realize it's not the anaconda, it's that freaking crazy boa. And I'm like, oh my God. So, and it's right there, the screen. We're on the 2nd level, and it's right by the screen. It could easily just slightly move its body and pop that screen out, like no problem. And then it could drop and it's gone. So I had to battle this thing with my hook, and I didn't get bit or anything, which was great. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, battling a wild boa constrictor in your bathroom in your underwear is not a fun thing to do. But what I realized, the crazy thing to me is we had them in the other room. How did it get in this room? Both doors were closed. But what I realized is that the window goes across both rooms. So the wall doesn't go all the way. It's this weird built thing. So it got up into the window of the shower room and then just went straight over to the other room. And so, yeah, that was nuts.
I wish you got that on film.
Yeah, me too.
You know what? I thought about setting up a camera, or at least having my head camera, but time was of the essence because I didn't know if that snake was leaving or not. It looked like it was going out the screen, but what it was doing was just going back to the other room. But I thought it was going outside.
Gotcha.
Right.
So, gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I so wish I filmed it though. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a really funny point. I always forget to film everything, right? That's the story of my day. Like, you know, get done with something, put a snake away. I should have just set up a camera. It would have been great. Would have been great footage. Somebody would have seen how to feed a hognose snake that's acting weird. Whatever. I don't know. There's a million things that happen in my day that are very off the beaten path. But like, I never remember to do it. And then I'm like, oh man. Or I go to check my phone and it's at like 30%. Well, I can't just set it up and let it run. It'll die. Like, okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten used to filming lots of stuff. I usually film every time I target train, whether I use it or not, but there might be something really interesting that happens. So I might use it. But
that might be something I should focus on, is just realizing that I should set up a camera and just doing it and use it however I can after the fact.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyhow, enough of social media conversations while we make this podcast for social media.
Well, I'll tell you guys one of my snake bite stories.
Sure.
I had my big girl Isis. I had just got done doing a podcast, and all the snakes had been out on the vines, and I was looking cute, you know, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna make a bunch of videos. So I was walking around and I was videoing me and the snakes, and I kept being careful because Isis was in hunting mode. So every time I walked under her, I was being careful. Well, I just kept going on with the video after I made it probably about, we'll just say 3 times. And I guess my phone had gotten really hot, and Isis, I forgot about her being up there and all my goings on, and I got it on video. And she came down from the top of that vine and tagged me right in it was like this right here.
She got bit in the face by an emerald. How crazy is that? In the face.
And the funniest thing is, when we first decided to get these animals, you know, you watch the YouTube videos and this guy's on there, he's like, I'm the most vicious snake in the jungle is the emerald tree boa. And anyway, that's exactly what happened to me. That's what the guy on the video said. It sits up high in the tree and will bite your face. And that's exactly what happened to me.
And so then you did the natural reaction and got more.
Well, I thought I had just gotten scratched by one of the vines, because that happens a lot. You hit your head or something.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yep.
So I didn't even know I got bit till I looked in the mirror and I saw the blood. I was like, whoa. So, and then in the wild, I've only ever been bitten by one emerald, and it was my very first time trying to handle a wild one. And I did the first one really, really good. And then I took a lot of time, and then I just got too comfortable. And when I went to do the second one, I didn't take as much time and I got bit. But I don't even know, I could probably think about probably about 20 wild emeralds that I've held, and I only had that one bite ever. And I never ever hold their head. We never held any of the heads on any of the snakes, did we, Bob?
No, I would never grab a head of a snake. I mean, it injures their spine a lot of the time. Like, that's just not a way to handle a snake.
Show them in the camera.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
that's your bite.
Yeah.
That's
so
your bite.
It went away. Thank you, sweetie. It went away fast.
I thought that was like a logo I thought that was a logo that he was showing of like a sexy woman with her like doing her face up like that.
One
It
of
was like a
those
wine bottle logo.
vampire tramps that tries to get with the vampires.
Huh. That was funny. So what are you most excited for going back to the Everglades comparatively to Suriname?
I'm excited to meet Amy Sieve in person.
All right.
Yeah, we didn't find any pythons in the Everglades, and that's what we were going for. But we found a baby cottonmouth. I'd like to see an adult cottonmouth because we don't have them here in California. They're super common over there. People see them all the time, but I don't ever see them. So, but yeah, we found a bunch of snakes, but just didn't find the pythons. And Amy Sieve told you that we probably won't because it's not really the season for them. So it'll be rare. If we see one, we'll be lucky.
So Bob, is Kent staying home for this trip
Kent
too?
stays home. You know what? Kent's not going out in the forest.
You gotta get him out. You have to do it. There's gotta be something.
It was tough enough to get him to go to snake discovery. He stayed in the parking lot the whole time. He embarrassed me at Clint's Reptiles. I'm not bringing him to the jungle.
That video you made from snake discovery, and that end of the video where you showed Kent hanging out outside. I hope that there's enough people that will listen to this or watch this that will have seen it, or that will not have seen that, who would go and check it out, because that was so funny.
Thanks.
The way that, oh my God, I laughed out loud. Like,
oh, thanks.
At that ending, I was like, wow. That was great.
I'm glad you liked it. It was a lot of work, and I realized when I got home, and this always happens because I don't know how to use a camera. Every time I did indoor shots, here's what happened. I had Dave Kaufman help me with my outdoor camera settings. At the beginning, I was like, Dave, how do I even make this happen? It's all washed out. And Dave fixed it for me. But then I didn't fix it when I went inside.
Oh.
So I don't think most people realize it, or maybe they do if they're a camera person. But every time I see that video, I see the colors are totally washed out. It's like just this weird look on all the interior shots, which is a bummer. But
yeah, you're probably one of the very, very, very few people who would notice it.
I hope so.
I'm gonna go watch it again, actually.
So that you can notice
it. Now Greg's gonna just point it all out in the comments. Bob, you're done.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's all, especially the Kent footage. It just depends on what camera I use, and that was the camera I was using for all the Kent footage. Did that, but the rest there's a lot of footage that's good in there. So
yeah,
you don't have to defend
Did you guys
yourself.
see the little video? Did you see the little video he made that says proof that I'm a Disney princess?
I did not.
Where at the snake discovery, a little bird landed right in his hand, just like Snow White.
It's close. What happened was I was shooting with Kent, and I was in the doorway. The double doors were open with snake discovery, and I didn't realize this at the time, but this was a baby bird who was just fledging. There was a nest in the area, and it had just come down, and it just flew in right as I'm saying some line. It flies in front of my face and flies into snake discovery, and I just went, "Oh, hi, bird!" And I turned around, and it's just on the ground. So I reached down, and I was sure that I wasn't going to be able to pick it up, but I reached down and picked it up, and just did like this. And then I'm in front of the camera now with a bird on my hand. He's just standing on my hand, and I'm waiting for him to fly off. And a couple minutes just sitting there on my hand. I think as a fledgling bird, he was in shock. Like all of a sudden he's in a store. Like what is he? Where is he? And then a guy picks him up.
What is this?
So he had to like regroup. What a crazy first flight he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll never get better than that bird. He'll
strive for that for the rest of his life.
You're reaching for dreams from here on in.
Yeah, but I got to
get back to that first one.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Bob, what about you? What are you most excited to go back about? I mean, when you asked that question, you said the Everglades, and the Everglades was cool, but like I said, that was just an extra thing we added out of necessity, really, and it was convenient and fun. But what about the jungle? What's our What's our most exciting thing to
Yeah,
go
that's a
back
good
there?
question too.
So, we're going to be doing much of the same stuff that we did. I love finding the emeralds and such like that, but there are snakes there that I want to see. I was shocked. I didn't see one venomous snake while I was there, and they're all over the place. I mean, they
Well,
have
you did
fertile
get
ants all
bit.
over.
You got bit by a semi-venomous.
Well, a rear fanged venomous. I got bit by a vine snake, which is not really their rear fang, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I didn't see any vipers. I would love to see a bushmaster. My big thing when I was planning this trip, when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a video where I'm looking for a false water cobra. I want to find a false water cobra in the wild. So that was my plan. And then fairly recently, I looked up the false water cobra range, and they're in Suriname,
Right.
but they're in South Suriname, not North Suriname.
Right.
They're like we're just out of their range, so we're not going to find one of those.
Well,
But
you know what I saw is a little green scaly-tailed iguana. It's like 4 inches long, and I saw that on Facebook, and I looked up where it was from, and it's from Suriname. The
is that
spike-tailed iguana.
But hold on, that's the one that we caught that I had in my hand. You said put him in your beard.
Oh,
That's
that
what
was
that
that?
was. Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amy goes, I've got this little iguana in my hand, and Amy's so funny. She goes, she's holding the camera from behind the camera. She goes, it's cute. Put him in your beard. And I'm like, Amy, I'm not going to put him in my beard. I'm not putting the iguana in my beard.
well, if I had a beard, I would have put him in there.
I know
Right.
you would have.
I'm with you.
I mean, you have a beard that is screaming to have things put in it.
Yes.
So I can understand that.
You
Thank
should see
you.
my last live stream that I did, my holiday live stream. I had
yeah.
Christmas balls and beard tinsel. They make beard tinsel now.
Specifically, beard.
The
tinsel.
technology for Christmas decorations in beards gets better and better each year. There's
Didn't
so
even
much
know it was
stuff.
a thing that needed to happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, mine can definitely not house anything. It's as short as long as it goes most of the time.
You could clip on little beard.
Yeah, I don't
beads.
think I want to though.
I
I mean, I can. I can. It's that most famous line from Jurassic Park. They didn't think whether they should, only that they could or not, right?
Right. Yeah, true.
Well, Bob is going to have a much higher chance now of seeing the different species that he would like to see because of the 4 days of terrestrial hunting.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, I would love to come across a large anaconda. We had about a 7-foot anaconda, which is really about the maximum that I want to handle. But I'd love to see a really big one. I don't want to.
That would be neat. Yeah.
I don't want to mess with it, but I want to witness it.
Yeah.
How about I mean, did you before? So Amy, you had been there many times before, but Bob, when you went this last time, did you do any research prior?
Oh,
or did you just kind of like, hey, let's just go and have a good time?
Oh no, I'm a massive researcher. As we're getting in, Amy's telling me stuff, and I'm like, I know. I know. I go down massive rabbit holes of research, so I knew basically what I was getting into.
Nice.
And on that note too, Bob, I was thinking when you're talking about being out of the range, just outside of the range of the false water cobra. Now, when you say just outside the range, what do you mean? Like, like within like a few miles, or
no. With I don't know what it would be in miles, but if I remember right, the range seems to slip into Suriname and cover about the southwest, maybe 25 or 30% of Suriname, and the rest of the country, it's not there, and we're way up in the northeast, so pretty far away. But I mean, I've shown pictures of the false water cobra to Mark and another hunter, and they said that they have seen them there, but it's super rare.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they do get up that far, but it's just not common at all,
So there's a chance. We won't say there's not.
There's a chance. You're saying there's a chance. Yes, there's a chance.
So there is a little chance. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Is
When I
is
went,
this terrestrial hunting going to be for specifically reptiles, or is it kind of all
yes.
encompassing? It is specifically reptiles.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll of course look for, you usually see sloth and monkeys and
Right.
different things at night, whatever you see. But yes, we are very specifically going to look for snakes.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about making an entire video, and I'm going to call it "Hey Dave, What's This?" because Dave Kaufman is an encyclopedia of reptile species, and I'm not. I know a lot about the reptiles that I research, but I'm not an encyclopedia. So I want to just find all kinds of stuff and just go, "Hey Dave, what's this?" and have Dave tell me what it is, and we
There
could
you
probably do
go.
a whole 30-minute video that's just called "Hey Dave, What's This?"
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that coming out.
Yeah. I hope we can do it. I'm also going to look up every reptile that I find just so I can see how many times Dave lied to me and just made stuff up.
There you
I'm
go.
guessing that happens too.
You'll have it on video.
Yeah.
You'll have it on video. You
Right.
can't debate that.
Yeah, future Bob will have to do that for you.
That's
Yeah,
right. Future
definitely.
Bob will take care of that one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I mean, that seems like a good, we're getting, close to the ending, I think, here with
That's a beautiful snake configuration that you have going on there, Amy.
Thank you. I thought so too. It looks
Oh,
like
yeah.
twisted bread.
Yeah.
They are definitely having fun.
Yes, they're real sweethearts, and they're all this sweet.
I still can't get over that. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at that and not go, oh God. I don't. The rescues had plenty of emeralds, green trees,
Oh,
they've always been a hands-off animal.
But you know what? When you get any animal as a rescue, there's a good chance that they were not socialized well and loved on. Not the reptiles we love.
Aren't.
What's that?
I said most of the time they aren't well associated, and 90% of what we deal with is an animal that's completely terrified.
Yeah, of course.
It's not even aggressive. It's just scared. It has no clue that you don't mean it harm.
Yeah,
right.
Not to talk about the rescue and what we do, but it's just, I've seen a lot of them, and they've always been a hands-off snake. And I had, I believe, if you remember, Amy, last time you were on, I had just rehomed one to
and
a
I
gentleman.
said, "What? Why didn't you keep it?"
Yeah, and I do a lot of standing educational lectures. So for me, I deal with safe animals. I want to make sure that they're not going to bite me in the face in front of a bunch of kids. Yeah. That animal would have definitely bitten me a lot in front of a bunch of kids. And the gentleman who actually adopted it contacted me probably like 3 or 4 months after the podcast, and he was like, I handle it very infrequently, but I do handle it. And I was like, well, you're already one step of a house better than I would have been, because I probably would have just let it sit there in its enclosure forever, and that's what it would have done. So, when I make decisions like that, that's one of the reasons behind it, is to give it something better than I could. And I always looked at your video, the video we did with you, the podcast originally, Amy, and I'm like, man, I should have worked with that snake. Would have only taken a little bit of time, right? A little bit of time would have been good. And then I'm like, you know what? No, because my luck is I'd have a snake sticking out of my eyeball in the middle of a and it would have been terrifying for some little kid, and that would have been the end of that.
It's tough when they're adults, but if you can raise a snake from a baby and you really know that snake, those, like these snake, any of these snakes of Amy's, well, maybe all but one, would be fantastic ambassador animals.
Oh yeah. Oh, we had that conversation, Bob. She told me that she handed one of her emeralds to a 4-year-old girl, and my jaw hit the floor, and I didn't really know what to say after that.
Such cute photos too.
And
she's got the pictures of it. It's really cute.
In the context of the podcast, I was like, you did what? Oh, wait, say that again. What happened? I couldn't even. It was one of those situations where I was just like, wow, okay, so that's all right. And then you did post pictures. It was amazing. I couldn't even believe it.
That little girl's coming over for a photo shoot next week with all of my reptiles, but just this past month, I live in a retirement community. So when the neighbors' grandkids come to visit, everybody wants to bring them to my little reptile zoo. And I have upstairs, I have two sulcatas, an iguana, and two king snakes. And my king snakes are free roam. They can come out. Sometimes my husband says that they need adult supervision, so they're not allowed out when it's just me. But I let them out and forget about them. One of them was gone for 5 months and she showed up again. So they're very friendly and super social, all the animals up there, but the king snakes bite because they're not very smart and everything's food. And the iguana scratches and the sulcatas will poop on you. So those kids come over and they can't hold any of those
Right.
cool animals I have upstairs.
Right.
But then they come downstairs and I just piled these green snakes on them like nothing because I know these green snakes are not going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Because they're all like
a remarkable
this.
thing that you've done. I know other people have done it too. I'm not trying to, as I researched after the fact, I definitely saw that there's a lot of people that do handle emeralds comparatively to what I was under the assumption of, which is on my bad for not doing research prior to having podcasts. But
well, I would not post this on the Emerald Tree Boa forum because it's nasty. Even just recently, I deleted a comment that I made. A guy was holding his emerald, and everybody was saying all their ugly stuff. And I said that just like anything, things become normal to them, and it's just normalized. And these snakes just feel comfortable being held because it's normal. And then this guy comes back and gives me all of this stuff. I mean, I don't even want to say that I was doing to my snakes what happened to the Jewish people in Auschwitz. That's what he said.
Oh my God.
I told him
the internet is a dangerous place.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, that's just one terrible example. But all the time I've had these snakes, I've just learned just don't post anything that I don't have thick skin like these snakes.
I just stay off those Facebook groups. Totally. I mean, it's ridiculous.
You just gotta stay out of the groups.
Do you guys know who Richard Bilbo is?
The name sounds familiar.
So Richard Bilbo is an old-timey snake breeder. He works with all kinds of different snakes. He's like in his 70s, and he's been on Clint's Reptiles a few times because he lives up near Clint's. And I got to talk to him. It's my interview I kind of did a little mini interview with him in my video for Clint's Reptiles because we're talking about this emerald that Clint has that is pretty bitey because it's not handled very much. I think Clint got him as an adult, and Richard was working with him the day before. But I was talking about my feelings that I stated earlier about these emeralds. And I asked Richard if he agreed, and he said, yeah, he's been working with them for 15 years. He's got a bunch of emeralds. All of them are as tame as Amy's, and they're happy to come out and just hang out with them. And it's just because he works with them calmly, And he worked with the one that was pretty cantankerous the day before. He did get bit. And when a 70-year-old man gets bit by an emerald, it's a little bit worse than a fight. Like your skin is not as thick when you're older. So he had a bandage around his arm, but he didn't care. But he worked with that snake for an hour or two outside of the enclosure, And that's all you got to do is just not be afraid to get bit.
You just got to teach them. I mean,
work with them. Yes, they're
it's
just like any other snake. They just have longer teeth.
Yeah.
So
they're just. I mean, I think part of that is this 20-year, 30-year keeping snakes in captivity and not knowing how smart they really are for the generic keeper / breeder,
Absolutely.
however you want to. And I mean, it's just a dumb lizard is something that had been tossed around my childhood, even if they weren't reptile people, it's just
the reptile brain. The idea of the reptile brain is because people thought that there were no thoughts in a reptile's brain and no capacity to learn. When, if that were true, they would not have survived. Snakes have been around since before the dinosaurs.
Right.
And if they didn't have a capacity to learn in their own individual microenvironments, they'd be done,
Yeah.
But
I mean, I took in two green anoles, and it's a $5 or $4 like Petco thing that you can, you walk in there and it's like, probably every week they have a whole shipment of new anoles, you know, they're just, they're considered like the ultimate like throwaway pet.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
when I am in the reptile room, the male anole will come to the glass on the front of the enclosure and watch me because he knows that a lot of times when I am in there, I bring a little dish of mealworms with me. So, and you watch them like tilting their head and like looking and trying to like figure things out. And it's like, I don't even understand how that phrase, or thought process was even contrived, because just watching them lets you know that there's some a level of intelligence there, It's
Yes.
interesting.
That's the thing. I think for many, many, many years, nobody was watching them.
Yep.
And those
That's
who
well,
were maybe weren't sharing the information. I mean, zoos have been target training all their animals for years, including their snakes and their lizards. We don't hear about it though.
Nope.
And now target training is a new thing within pet keeping, but it's not new for
right,
zoos.
yeah.
No, I mean, I can remember specials on Cuban crocs, and I can't remember the zoo specifically, but from the late 90s, talking about calling them by name and having them come over, and separating them as individuals so that they have a different understanding of what time it is for this animal versus this animal or what have you. And now it's everywhere,
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, it's great. It's research that needed to be done because we don't use as quote unquote civilized societies. We use meat as other animals, things like cows and stuff that we've been breeding for thousands of years to keep ourselves alive. We didn't do that with reptiles. We have no concept of really any of that stuff behind it yet, and we're learning, and it's great to be a part of it now in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure.
All these products that have come out in the last 20 years to better the keeping of reptiles has just been outstanding,
Yeah.
And their own little arms race between all those companies making all these different products is really fascinating to watch because everybody's got a different concept of how to do something. And some work really, really well and others don't, and it's a really cool, really interesting thing to get into, which is not really the topic of what we're talking about today, but it's definitely,
but it is fascinating. Awesome. Yeah. It's cool
awesome to watch happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to try and, gear towards
ending,
closing ceremony.
Wrapping it up.
Are you wrapping? Yeah. Are you wrapping it up?
Yeah. So you ruined my segue. So now it's up to you.
I always ruin segues.
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, honestly, at the end of at the end of this podcast, we always try to wrap it up with something, philosophical and something that's talking about the furthering the hobby and seeing what's going to happen or what somebody's perspective is. So really, I guess the only question to ask towards this end, Bob, would be, what is something you'd like to see change in the reptile hobby or industry, however you would like to phrase it? What's a new way of thinking or what have you? Just anything really, just your own take.
Yeah, I mean, I have a number of answers to this question, but I will give one, and that is that I would love to see, and this is tough because you could say this in any hobby, I think, but I would love for there to be a day where people online cared more about the animals than they did their ego. So, and their ego usually comes from having a very low self-esteem, as many of us know. So all this infighting that we're talking about that happens on Facebook groups, and it's why I don't go on Facebook groups, because I don't even like to see all that crazy drama. None of those fights are really about the wellness of the animal. It's about the person's ego. Well, I take care of my snakes this way, and you're doing it wrong. No, I'm not. You're abusing your animals. It's ridiculous. So I would like to see that stop, but that might be very wishful thinking on my part.
I think the only way that'll stop is if Kent goes with you on your next trip. So
that might
he's got to
stop it
tell everybody
altogether.
from the riverbanks in Suriname, man. It's just got to happen.
If Kent brings the 1988 VHS camcorder to Suriname, that weighs 12 pounds.
Yep, that'll do it.
Possibly.
That's a lot to hike with. I get it. He probably won't want to. And Amy, I'll pitch the same question to you.
I would definitely like to see. I mean, I'm sure all the snakes are the same. You know, I only work with these guys. But well, yes, my king snakes upstairs, they have all kinds of vines to climb on and things to go in and places to swim, and they use every bit of it. And I would just love to see, especially these animals, get more stimulation in their enclosures. So many of them are kept on single perch systems or even a double perch and not a vine system. So they have nothing to slither in and out of and explore. And like you said earlier about offering them different things to smell, they love to smell new things. Every time I put something new in, they wake up and go right to it and check it out.
Yep.
So stimulation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm like, when it comes to enrichment, I'm like, the possibilities are endless, you know, when it comes to creating, you know.
Yes,
Can
I'm
I
so
just
glad you got your ceiling done.
I just want a quick, but this day, Stella, my other super dwarf retic, was pushing. Was that board? It's not too warm in there or anything, but retics push sometimes. And
Yep.
she was pushing on her glass. I usually let her out, but I couldn't because I was busy and I couldn't watch her. She has to be watched all the time if I let her out. So all I did, I knew that she was pushing because she's bored. I gave her a ball. I put a ball in her cage and closed the door. 3 hours. She was 3 hours on that ball. It kept her, and she didn't push at all. I mean, after the 3 hours, she just went into her hide and went to sleep. But
Yep.
she was all, it was one of those balls with holes in it, just all over it, climbing everywhere, inspecting the whole thing for 3 freaking hours.
I have something to add to that too. I have a blue tongue skink, and he was surrendered. He is the sweetest animal in the world. None of this mouth open trying to bite you like everybody else's blue tongues. My frilled dragon's the same way for the matter. It has never frilled since I got it. It's so calm and great. But the blue tongue has, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but you know that like silicone spiky balls that are like dog toys?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're you know, a little bit
The
maybe
virus.
a little bigger than a hard ball, right? This animal will play with that ball like you can't imagine, and he, excuse me, has had it for the entirety of his, you know, living at the rescue. And he lives in a decent sized vision habitat, but you know, he will come out in the morning and go push it around for a while, and then he'll go lay back
Wow.
down, and then he doesn't do any, like, he's not aggressive, he's not scared. He'll interact with you at the glass similar to Greg's and Knowles, and you know, he's got something to entertain himself with. It's such an eye-opening experience, you know. Just give
Wow.
them something to do, something.
Yes.
Anything.
Yeah.
Love it. Glad to hear it. I mean, I knew what I was getting
Yes.
when Greg told me we were going to interview or have a podcast with the two of you. So awesome conversation, guys.
It was
Greg,
a great
you wanna
conversation. I appreciate you
Yeah.
guys. That was fun.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
want to say
thanks,
the
you
outro
guys.
or what have you, Greg, you're good. Greg?
Yeah. So outro. That's
Well, thank you guys. Thanks a whole lot.
That's
It's been
all I got.
fantastic. And
No,
we
we
look
really
forward
thank you
to
so much
chatting
for
with
being
you
a part
guys
of
again
this.
in the future.
It's so awesome. And we look forward to talking to you from your next trip. Well, after your next trip, I should say. Love to
Yeah, for sure.
love to redo it.
So Amy, where should people want to look you up? Where do they look you up?
The best place to find me is at Happy Basins on Instagram. And like you said, I also post on TikTok, and I post a lot more stuff on Facebook of all my animals. But TikTok and Instagram, I keep it just on these guys. And my YouTube channel, you have to film horizontal, and I never remember to do that, so I never really put anything on YouTube.
You can make a bunch of shorts.
I know.
This is
Bob
look.
told
I'm
me all
already on
about
her
it.
about it. I'm already trying to convince her of this. I got more work to do, but she'll be on YouTube.
I actually kept my old phone so I could record things horizontally and vertically.
Smart.
Yes, I'm going to improve about my YouTube channel.
And Bob, what about you?
Green Room Pythons on YouTube is the main bulk of the content, but I also have content on Instagram and TikTok. But it's all Green Room Pythons.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I won't ever be able to remember that. It's such a difficult thing to remember.
Yeah, Bob puts a lot of work into his videos. They're just fantastic. They're entertaining, educational, visually fun to watch because his animals are always slithering all over him. And one of these days, we'll get a lizard in his beard.
Maybe
Yeah,
on the next
I'm on
trip,
team.
baby.
Yeah, I'm on team Beard Lizard. So
Yeah, no,
All right,
definitely.
I'm with you.
Spiny tail iguana in the beard. Coming up.
Yep, I'm on Team Beard Lizard.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see if
all
we
right,
can do
guys.
it.
By the way, I'm pretty sure Greg just got the thumbnail for this video with Team Beard Lizard. Just saying.
But yeah, so thanks
Yes.
a lot, guys, for coming
Thank
on.
you.
It was awesome.
All right. Good night.
Thanks,
you
guys. Fun
Thank you.
conversation.
Have a
great
great
night.
night.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.